The draft may be behind us, but that's definitely not the end of the offseason updates. Now the entire NFL schedule for the upcoming season is officially live. We'll share our thoughts about what's in store for the Packers in the 2025 season of football, and we'll also get feedback from you, dear listeners. All this and more coming up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
These are exciting times, Packers fans. Thanks for joining us. I'm Wayne Henderson, and my green and rose gold colored glasses are ready to take an early peek at the Pack's upcoming 2025 season.
And I'm Scott Clark. I'm about a week and a half away from what every teacher looks forward to, summer break. So don't mind me if I savor in the sunshine a bit, and I'm not rushing for the oncoming football season. It's still great to be here once again talking Green Bay Packers. It is episode 320 of your Packers Fan Podcast, and this time around, the NFL game schedules are out. Let's talk about how it looks at this point.
And we love your listener feedback, and we love to share it. So stay tuned for that as well. So, Scott, why don't we dig in just right off the bat? Let's go over not the preseason games, but let's go over the regular season games. The whole season starts Sunday, September 7th. It'll be here soon enough after Scott has a nice, relaxing, long summer out in the sun. The Detroit Lions are coming to Lambeau Field. We actually start the season at home for the first time under Matt LaFleur. So that'll be nice. It's a 3:25 p.m. Central Time game, if you go by those standards. And then 4 days later, we're still at Lambeau Field, thankfully, because Thursday Night Football, the Washington Commanders come to town. Of course, 7:15 p.m. Get a little bit of a break after that game, 2 in 1 week. Then Sunday, September 21st, we are on the road playing high noon in Cleveland against the Browns. Who knows which Browns team is going to show up this season? Anything's possible. And I guess you could call this a road game, Scott. Sunday, September 28th, the Packers go to Dallas for Sunday Night Football. I can't even remember the last time we lost in Dallas.
I'm sure somebody will look it up for us and let us know.
Oh, positively. And then, believe it or not, after we beat the Cowboys, it's our bye week already. Back at home after the bye, which is nice. It's almost like the beginning of the second season. The Bengals come to town Sunday, October 12th, 1:25. I'm sorry, I got to think about Central Time. 3:25 p.m. Central Time. Week later, we go on the road. We're going to Arizona. As is tradition, that's a Sunday, October 19th at 3:25 p.m. And then Sunday, October 26th. This game, don't know how it's going to play out just yet. We are going to be in Pittsburgh. We're going to be playing the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Will Aaron Rodgers actually play this season? And if Aaron Rodgers does, will he be a Pittsburgh Steeler for this game?
Oh, boy, I have thoughts, but we'll get there.
Okay. You take the rest of the slate. What's coming up for us?
All right. So after going to Pittsburgh, we will be hosting the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, November 12th. That will be a noon game Central Time. And then we get a little bit of an extension there. You know, it's a good one more day because we're going to be playing on the following Monday, the 10th. We're going to be hosting the Philadelphia Eagles at 7:15 p.m. for a primetime game. That should be a huge game for a number of reasons. Then we're going to be at New York. That is the New York Giants on Sunday, November 16th. That'll be a noon game on Fox. And then we're going to be hosting the Minnesota Vikings Sunday, November 23rd for a noon game. Then flying over to Detroit, or maybe driving. I don't know. It's a big lake, but they can get around it. That's going to be Thursday, November 27th, Thanksgiving Day. I love it when we play on Thanksgiving. It feels like it's been happening more recently, but I will take it. Green Bay at Detroit. That's going to be the noon game for Thanksgiving. Then Sunday, December 7th, we're going to be hosting the Bears for a noon game. And then traveling after that to Denver to face the Broncos on Sunday, December 14th for a 3:25 game. Strangely, the Bears, again, we just got a 1 week break in between trouncing the Bears. This one will be in Chicago on Saturday, December 20th. That one's undecided. It could be a 3:30 game or it could get flexed to 7 o'clock, depending on how the season shakes out. Then the last two games, we will be hosting the Baltimore Ravens. It'll either be on Saturday or Sunday, December 27th or 28th, depending on how the schedule goes. Don't know times, anything. And then the last game of the season will for sure be at the Minnesota Vikings. Just not sure which day, Saturday or Sunday, January 3rd or 4th. Again, times are going to be determined based on, basically they want to see how important these games are and whether or not they're going to make them a primetime game or they're just going to have them be a regular old game that nobody's going to watch. So
right.
That's what we're waiting for. So let's start things off, Wayne, with the big elephant in the room, which is that week 5 bye. You put on the format here. You asked me, sir, to come up with pros and cons about having a week 5 bye. I got to be honest, I'm really struggling coming up with anything positive to say about having a bye that early in the season. The only thing I can really think is that we might need a break early if the Packers get beat up by Detroit and Washington that those first 2 weeks. I don't hope it happens. I don't anticipate it to happen. But if it does, we'll have those 2 easier games, and then we're going to need a refresher to go back and do the rest of the season. I just hate that. Just seems like the season's barely started. And, not only that, we're going to finally be back into football season, and then it's going to be like, a week without Packers football, and that's never any fun for me. I'm just going to watch some other teams. I mean, I guess, but
there'll be somebody to watch. Yeah. But I get your point. It's very strange, but we'll see how that comes together. And we've got a little mention later in the listener feedback section about that as well. An interesting thing looking at the schedule overall, that starting November 10th, all of the rest of the games are against cold weather area teams. Of course, Detroit and at Minnesota, those are going to be played indoors, but there certainly won't be any California, Texas, or Florida teams coming up to the frozen Lambeau Field. So we don't really have the advantage or the disadvantage of all that long travel. But on the plus side, other than the December game in Denver, the rest of November and December games are all relatively close to Green Bay. So we're going to be cutting down on jet lag and travel expenses or whatever's involved, staying close enough to home for me.
It's going to feel weird not talking about that advantage because I always feel like there's at least one Southern team in the back half of the year that we're playing against, and not having a single one is very weird. But I'm taking this more as a positive because they're so close. How many times did we get screwed over with the scheduling because of the travel involved and the lack of practice time and the lack of appropriate rest? It's all going to be relatively close to Green Bay, so the travel is not going to be nearly as much of a factor. So I think this is really solid. It's just a little bit different than what we're used to, but shaking things up is totally fine by me. I'm hanging hope that they're going to be like, you know what, maybe we need to put that by towards the end of the season, but that's not going to happen.
Well, we have to put things in our own hands, the Packers do, and earn the first round bye so we can have a little mini bye before the playoffs, right? And maybe during the playoffs, we could get some of those warm weather teams coming to Lambeau.
There you go. I like it. Also interesting to me is that the Packers start the season at home this year. This is the first time since 2018 that's happened. And that also means that this will be Matt LaFleur's first time playing week 1 in Green Bay as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So that's really cool. In fact, they're also going to be home at Green Bay against the Commanders. So they're going to start the first 2 games at home. I could not tell you the last time I remember that happening. It's going to be a very tough start to the season, but also an opportunity to really set the tone for the rest of the season as they're really going to have to prove to the rest of the league that the Packers are to be taken seriously. Obviously, we're fans. We're looking at it very optimistically, but I think that a lot of fans of the NFL are still questioning the capability of the Green Bay Packers in their current state under Jordan Love, away from Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a very interesting start of the season. One of the more interesting years to begin with for quite a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that we haven't opened the season at home since 2018, I mean, I'm thankful that we get to do it this year, but it really needs to be something that gets flip-flopped every other year or at least every third year.
And it makes that game really, it makes me really want to go to that game. Mm-hmm. When's the last time I got that opportunity for season opener at Green Bay? It just, want to go to that game.
Another anomaly to the schedule is the fact that 5 of our last 7 regular season games are all against our NFC North rivals. That's 71% of our games at the end are against division rivals. That's crazy. So whichever team ends up winning the North, it could be totally decided or even flipped during this wild final 7 weeks.
Yeah, and in fact, after that Lions game in week 1, the Packers don't play another NFC North team for more than 2 months. So that makes me a little nervous because if the Packers lose to the Lions in week 1, that puts Green Bay in last place for a good portion of the season, making week 1 vitally important in terms of morale. Because there's no way to dig yourself out of that until you get to play them again, play the other teams in 2 months. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so important. It makes week 1 so important because you're not going to be able to dig yourself out at all.
Other than watching those other teams in the division also lose games.
Well, yeah, but if they play each other, one of them's got to win. We're just hoping for a tie at that point. It's just everybody ties.
Okay. Yes. Like we did last year in the Wager O Fun.
Yeah, exactly. November 10th will be a big game as well. It's a rematch against the Eagles, who killed our Super Bowl chances by taking us out in the wild card game last year. The Packers haven't beaten the Eagles since 2020, so this could be a huge momentum-shifting game, depending on how the season plays out up to that point. So I'm looking forward to that game. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on that game.
Oh, absolutely. And not just because it's on Monday Night Football. I mean, that's the hype is going to really build up. It'll be a playoff preview potentially, as well as the revenge game for last season and all that good stuff. Not to mention what happened in Brazil and all that good stuff. So yeah, that one's definitely a game to keep an eye on out of all of them, but there's so many good ones. And personally, I don't know if I can make it to a game at Lambeau again this year. I know, but if so, I'd like to try to make it happen for either the Panthers or Eagles games in early November before it gets too cold, but the season's underway and they might be gelling or something. Likely going to be heading to Arizona October 19th. Just drive out there. It's like a 3.5 hour drive, something like that. Easy peasy. Also spitballing ideas with my son and nephew. He really wants us to try to put something together and go to Dallas September 28th to watch the Packers go 4-0 into their bye week. How about you, Scott?
Well, first off, if you end up coming to Lambeau, you need to let me know if you make that happen, because I will do whatever I can to make sure that we all go together, because that needs to happen. Could you imagine you, me, Dan Dyler, Megan, Scott Boers, my wife? I should have said her name first. She's probably listening and yelling at me right now. Just like getting a massive group photo together just sounds amazing. But if that doesn't happen, I got 2 games that stick out to me that I'd like to go to. And part of this is because my wife and I are doing this deal where we're trying to tour the NFL stadiums. So obviously I want to go to Lambeau whenever possible, but I would like to go to the Cleveland game Sunday on the 21st at noon. Assuming I can swing a tour. My wife and I love to tour those stadiums, and we got our little collection of shot glasses that we've got from each one. And That's kind of our bucket list thing that we're trying to do, to see all those stadiums. Obviously the Midwest ones are easier. But we've got some others. We've been to Kansas City. We've been to Denver. So also for a home game, I'd like to see the Cincinnati game at home Sunday, October 12th. That's a 3:25 game. October is like great football season. It's just starting to get a little crisp. It starts, if it's not raining, you can see the leaves blowing, and that crispness in the air just really makes it feel like football. Not too cold, you can just get away with a sweatshirt or something like that. That could change depending on how the season shakes out. Clearly, I would like to see a more important game if they are, but just to see the teams that I'd like to see. I have seen Cleveland, but only in a preseason game in the past. Okay. So I would also love to see a game at Detroit on Thanksgiving. That's kind of a bucket list item for me, to be able to go on Thanksgiving. That's a tall order with my family, though, because we always spend Thanksgiving together. But man, how freaking cool would that be to be able to go see Green Bay in Detroit, knock off that one off of my list of stadiums to see, and do it on Thanksgiving. That just seems perfectly lined up, and I may have to try to convince my wife to let that one happen.
And with all of the trash talking that Dan Campbell and the Lions have been doing over the past couple of years, that stadium on Thanksgiving is going to be rocking.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be at least 50-50 split, if not leaning a little towards Green Bay.
And if we win that game, Jordan Love better get another turkey leg. or turducken or whatever they're going to be serving up for the game that season. So how about your way too early guess of the Packers win-loss record this coming season, Scott? What do you have? What's going to happen?
Know me. Man, these predictions are always like a crapshoot, just shooting from the hip. We haven't seen even the rookies play at all. We haven't seen anything whatsoever to know where everybody stacks, but I think the Packers have a tough schedule with a lot still to prove. With that said, Jordan Love is more experienced now, and it's about time for him to follow into the Aaron Rodgers formula of greatness. Aaron Rodgers wasn't super fantastic out the gate. He was a solid fundamental quarterback, but it took a while to gel with the team and the coaching and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the oven time is about done with Jordan Love in terms of that. So I'm hoping to see some greatness. But realistically, I'm going to predict 10-7. How about you?
Okay. 10-7. It's going to be tough to win the division at 10-7, but it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anything's possible. Looking at the schedule, there's a non-zero chance that Green Bay will go undefeated. However, I know you don't like me to say that. So I'm going to try to temper my expectations. And I say that I think we're going to go 13-4. In fact, in addition to the Packers finishing 13-4, I see the Vikings going 11-6, the Lions 10-7, and the Bears 8-9.
Vikings over the Lions, huh?
Yeah.
I think you need to take a screenshot of this format just so you can compare it at the end of the season and make this like the Wager Fun tiebreaker.
Oh, there's a good idea because I am a digital hoarder, Scott. I have all the previous prep documents.
Do you really? You don't you don't just copy over a new one. You actually make a new one every single time.
I make a duplicate and then we change it around and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Because you never know. You never know. So we had a special poll question as well, all about the game schedules. We posted it in the Facebook group at packerscommunity.com and on X at Packers Fan Pod. So the question was, looking at the Packers schedule, which game will be considered our season's crowning achievement if and when we win that game? And of course, please comment and reply to explain your choice if you'd like. And I went with the initial 4 options. People could add some if they wanted to, but nobody did. They stuck with the 4 biggies. Week 1, Detroit at Green Bay. Week 8, Green Bay at Pittsburgh, which could be an Aaron Rodgers game. Week 10, Philadelphia at Green Bay, or week 13, Thanksgiving, Green Bay at Detroit. So not counting the crowning achievement of winning the Super Bowl or something like that, which of these games would be considered the crowning achievement of the season if we win?
Boy, I had to think about this one. I don't think the Detroit at Green Bay game is as important. I think it's important because of a momentum shift. Right. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is playing this season. I'm sorry. Like, I know that everybody's talking about it. I will be very, very shocked if that actually happens. So that comes down to me, the Philadelphia game or the Thanksgiving game. Philadelphia game is more of a grudge match, but for me, the Detroit game is going to be the one because of where it is in the season. You know, it is going to be on a holiday, all of America watching that game. Even the people that don't like football at least have it on in the background on Thanksgiving Day, right? Everybody's going to be tuning in, watching this game, watching Green Bay trounce over the Detroit Lions in prime time on a holiday, and that's just going to set the tone for the rest of the season. So yeah, I'm going to say Detroit at Detroit.
All right, that's a solid choice, Scott. And not only all of America watching, but since it's a noon Central game, you know, all of Europe, the UK, and many spots around the world, this will be the perfect timing. They don't have to stay up too late. It's a great time for the world to be watching the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And I'm actually going to go with the Philadelphia at Green Bay game. Week 10, it's around the middle of the season. And not so much for the grudge match, but because they are the reigning champs. And if we can beat them this year, finally, after, what is it? You said since 2020, we haven't beaten them. We need to beat them this year and kind of knock the reigning champs down a notch or two. So I'm going to go with that one.
That's not a bad choice. I think it was close for me, but the holiday aspect of the Detroit game is what put me over. But I came very close to the Philadelphia game. But well, let's see what everybody else said about this. First off, Wayne, I'm just taking over here, man.
Do it.
The Detroit, here's the percentages as they broke down on social media. 4% said week 1, Detroit at Green Bay. 4% said week 8, Green Bay at Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers. So there you go, Wayne. I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me that they don't think that's actually going to happen. 45% said week 10, Philadelphia at Green Bay. And 47% were with me, week 13, Green Bay at Detroit. We did have some comments on the poll in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group as well. Jesse Wolford said, man, that's so exciting that Packers at Bears is on my birthday. Nothing would make that birthday better than seeing our Packers walk into Soldier Field and just stomp the Bears. Garrett Stritzel also had a comment. He said, I hate Thursday games for that short turnaround. We all do. Always hate that. And Brett Connor said, I think the Lions will be another Super Bowl contender this season. Will be a tough team to beat in Detroit. With such an early bye week, that's the kind of win that could help carry our momentum into the playoffs. Go Pack, go. And then Jared McChinney-Kerr said the Lions away game. They flipped the script as being the boogeymen of the NFC North. It's not Green Bay anymore. They're just so good and still Super Bowl contenders. Beating them would be awesome. I agree.
Indeed, it would. And Dawn in the Facebook group said it would be fantastic to beat the Lions twice. But personally, I'd love to stomp the Eagles, my sister-in-law's team, just for some revenge for last year. And Dan Dyler said it's got to be the Eagles for me. To take down the world champs on Monday Night Football would be epic, especially since their team is largely unchanged. It would be something that absolutely would put the Packers on everyone's radar. And over on X, Reliably Random said Detroit will fall off, so the wins against them won't be as big of a deal, but our big win against the defending champs will be huge.
And there you have it. Moving on to some listener voicemails and emails. Let's dig in and find out what you find listeners had to share with us. Starting over with Noah over on the old voicemail.
Got one of my grandsons, Noah, here. He's got a few things to share. First off, Noah, his brother Bennett, and his cousins were all part of the Jordan Love football camp up in Bakersfield last month. And Noah here caught a couple of passes from Jordan Love, something that none of us have done. So tell us a little bit about what that day was like and what it was like being on the field with Jordan Love.
The camp was so fun. And we did a bunch of drills, and then we worked our way up to catching passes from Jordan Love. So it was kind of like a 5v5 game where I was on Jordan Love's team. Me and Caleb, my cousin, we caught some passes. It was the most magical moment of my whole life.
And then I saw some videos, and Noah, by the way, he's 10. He threw the ball back to Jordan Love too, right? So Jordan Love has caught some balls from Noah and some of the other cousins and grandkids and stuff.
Yeah. So, and I got a lot of yards on some of them too.
That is so awesome. Something that most of us don't get to do, but when we see Jordan Love on the field, we'll definitely think about that. So, Noah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the schedule that came out just the other day. 17 regular season games. What do you think about the fact that we've got a bye week after just 4 games?
That will be a rough one. It's better to have a bye week around 11 or 10. But number 5, I think that's not a great bye week for us.
It's definitely not, but you never know. I mean, last year, I think the Philadelphia Eagles had a bye week, week 5, and they didn't do too shabby.
Yeah.
Looking at these games, are there some that look like they're going to be really tough, in your opinion, as an aspiring 10-year-old moving on to middle school?
I really think the Philadelphia Eagles will definitely be a problem.
Problem?
I think the Baltimore Ravens will be a very big game for us, extremely hard. And and the Washington Commanders seem like a really, really hard game for us.
Yeah, the Commanders are going to be on Thursday Night Football right at the beginning of the season. You never know what might happen in these last few games, like when the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, like you said, they're not going to be easy at all. But maybe they will have clinched their division by then and they'll rest some players. Who knows what may happen?
Yeah, that would be really nice. So we don't have to be trying our butts out there.
So out of these 17 games, if you had to guess, even though we haven't had training camp yet, how many of these 17 games are we going to win this year?
I think we'll win 12. We'll go 12-5.
12-5. Is that going to win us the division if we go 12-5?
Hopefully. But the Lions and the Vikings are a really hard team to also be in our division.
Amen to that. How about the Bears? The Bears aren't going to win as many games as us, are they?
The Bears still suck. They're going to go 3-14.
Oh,
that's what I'm hoping.
I'd love to hear that kind of stuff, Noah. And you're channeling your Clay Matthews there with the Bears still suck. So September 7th is the first game. That's a long way away. They still have to do mini camp, training camp, and preseason games and all of that. None of the games are out here, not even really close to us other than Arizona. But it looks like a solid season, an entertaining season, but you think it's going to be pretty tough?
I think it'll be tough. We're playing a lot of the harder teams and being one of the best divisions in the league. It'll be hard playing some of the best teams multiple times.
But one of our listeners has said, if to be the best, you have to beat the best. So there's something to be said for that, but it's going to be really interesting. And, if you weren't just 10 years old, if the new rookie wide receivers didn't work out, we should send you back out there so you could catch a few more passes from Jordan Love, right?
Yeah.
And try not to get demolished on the field.
Yes. Hopefully not getting demolished would be very nice.
And a little inside information, that Scott did actually beat me once on the Wager Fun a couple years ago, and we do have to play our Madden game. Noah and his brother Bennett are also doing a little bit of coaching and practicing with me on Madden so that when I go up against Scott, I won't be the worst embarrassment of all time, but it's not going to be easy. What kind of tips have you tried to help me to learn in Madden?
Try to make sure that you're not, that you're making smart passes. Try not to throw the ball when they're in triple coverage.
That's solid. How about try not to run the wrong way 25 yards for a safety against myself?
Yeah. Try to run the right direction.
All right. Noah, thank you very much for joining us on this special edition of your Packers Fan Podcast. Do you have any final words?
Let's go, Packers! Go, Pack, go!
Yeah!
With Bennett with a yeah. Bennett, how about your go, Pack, go? How loud can you yell go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go!
Well, that was awesome. That's great. Now, that is your grandson?
Yes, and he's 10 for another couple weeks.
All right. Well, happy early birthday, Noah. Thank you so much for the Madden tips. Wayne doesn't need any more tips. He's going to lose. So we want the Packers to win that matchup for obvious reasons. And I'm looking forward to I'm not a big Madden person either. I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not anywhere near an expert. So that's going to be awesome.
Listen to this guy.
No, I'm an NFL Blitz guy. You want to play NFL Blitz? I will destroy you on NFL Blitz.
I don't even know what that is. You'll destroy me anything.
NFL Blitz is like the street football version of NFL Blitz. Instead of 1st and 10s, you have 1st and 30. And because it's all about long passes, there's really not much of a running game at all, except for like quarterback sneaks and things like that. And like at the end of the plays, you get to like body slam the opposing team's players. And there's an announcer, the same announcer that does the NBA Jam games, he's on fire. It's that same guy just doing all the announcing. It's a lot of fun. It's more arcadey, less simulation, and way more fun.
Okay, then. We'll see how that goes after Madden, if you can manage to beat me in the Wager of Fun again. And Noah's prediction of 12-5, solid. Very solid indeed.
He's a lot closer to my prediction than to your prediction. Just going to throw that out there.
It's true. It's very true.
Also, super jealous that Noah got to receive a pass from Jordan Love and lob one back to him too. That had to be a pretty cool moment, and he's going to look back on that for years to come and be like, "I remember that. Remember that?
Mhm.
Watch him on TV and be like, that dude threw a ball to me." That's
He
awesome.
can be telling his own grandkids about it. So
Yeah.
that's going to be fantastic. We also got a audio submission from Mr. Dan Dyler, a.k.a. Pack Sparrow.
Go, 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 Pack, go! Happy schedule release. Well, I know it was a while ago, last Wednesday, but so happy to get that out there finally and start planning our Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, afternoons and evenings, maybe a Thursday in there a couple of times. I'm really excited because get to try to start planning on a trip or two to one of our games. I don't like how this starts. I hate coming out of the season and facing a divisional rival right off the bat, because for the most part, all of our starters, they don't play in preseason. They knock the rust off a little bit. They're in practice, but they're not in game shape yet. And to have us have anybody, a division rival right out of the gate, that does a disservice, I think, to both teams, because division games mean so much now. And then to go 4 days later on Thursday Night Football to another playoff team with the Commanders, that's just not off to a very good start. But at least, you get some time off and then go to Cleveland and Dallas for Sunday Night Football, second primetime game in 4 weeks. And then I knew this was going to happen eventually. The week 5 bye, that's just entirely way too early in the season. But, fortunately, we just came off of 2 byes, I guess. So we're almost getting 3 byes in a week, between Cleveland, Dallas, and then the actual bye. Then come back and face the Bengals. Then go out to Arizona to the Cardinals. The Steelers game is a game I'm really looking at going to. I think that's going to be a great game. I was hoping so hard that it was going to be in Ireland, but alas, the Steelers retained their rights, I guess, to host the Packers at Acrisure Field, I think it's called now, instead of Heinz Field. The fact of the matter is, we travel well, and they want that money. Really not liking how the end of the season starts or ends either. I mean, you have the Vikings, the Lions, the Bears, the Broncos, the Bears, the Ravens, and the Vikings. You're talking about 5 divisional games in 7 weeks. That is just absolutely brutal, especially with having that bye so early there in week 5. I think it's pretty awesome because I don't think I'm going to have to buy Sunday ticket this season because we got 5 primetime games. We got 4 games that are going to be, games of the week, more than likely because of the 4:25 start time. You got only 5 1 p.m. or I guess noon, start time games. Everything else should be on. We should all be able to watch the games no matter where we live in the country, whether that's in Wisconsin or like you, Wayne, out there in California, Scott down there in Illinois. Sorry, that gave me some indigestion, I think. One thing I always look at that's just kind of fun, out of all 32 teams, we are traveling the 7th least amount of miles. So I guess that's good. So we shouldn't have to worry about jet lag a whole lot, except for the Arizona, and Steeler game going from, all the way out to the West Coast all the way up to the East Coast, with 12,929 miles compared to the Los Angeles Chargers, who are going to be traveling 3 times as much with 37,086 miles. I just always think that's a fun fact. I don't think it really matters because these are professional athletes with, crazy awesome trainers. These guys should be ready. Their bodies should be ready. And that's what it is. Now, I will be going to the Commanders game. My buddies that from the East Coast, one of them is a Commanders fan, so anytime he gets an opportunity to come to Lambeau Field, he always jumps on it because he loves Lambeau Field and the atmosphere and the fans. So we'll be going to that game. The other game I'm looking at seriously is the Steelers game in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure what other games. I would have loved to go to one of the Lions games, but I'm not giving up my Thanksgiving. Like I've never been to Ford Field, but I'm not giving up my family and my Thanksgiving game or my Thanksgiving to go to a game up there in that crap town. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now, and let me shut it down. Go, 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 Pack, go!
Go Pack, go indeed. Thanks, Dan, for the insight. Dan is banking on Aaron Rodgers coming to the Pittsburgh game, I'm assuming, because he talked about that one 2 or 3 times in that voicemail. But I don't know. I think it's interesting that he said that we are the 7th least amount of travel miles this season. I would have thought it was a lot. I thought that was closer to the top, honestly, with how close everything was at the end of the season. But like he said, that doesn't matter quite as much. But still, it's a really interesting fact. And where did you get that stat?
I have no idea, Scott.
Who is calculating that
so quickly?
That
Here's the miles involved. Yeah, I think the game to out to Arizona is probably the one that moved us from 4th least to 7th least, if I'm going to just guess. And then Dan sent in a direct message with his season prediction of us being the NFC North champs at 12-5, Scott.
Hey, that's 2 that we've got called in with 12-5. So
yeah. So and NFC North champs at 12-5. And speaking of being the champs of a division, this just came out in the news yesterday. And of course, it's going to take years of discussion before anything happens. But be sure to check out the great posts and fun photos in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. There's a new post about the NFL owners being in early discussions about potentially changing the playoff seeding rules. If it comes to pass, maybe we'll no longer have to see a 9-8 division winner hosting 13-4 wild card teams. Share your comments on that story in the group, but I think that's long overdue because, winning your division at 9-8 or even 8-9, I think one year, it's kind of like winning by default. And then teams with humongous records like 13-4 have to come travel. Crazy. What do you think? Your early thoughts if it ever does come to pass?
I don't know what the answer is, but I'm old school and I'm just so used to win your division. It leaves for potential Cinderella stories. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this team that got in there with 9-8 barely squeaked into the playoffs, but wound up winning the whole thing. We're not going to have those stories if they do it. You know what I mean? I don't want just the powerhouses. That's what makes sports fun, is those underdogs that don't necessarily deserve to be there, but somehow pull it off. The argument against it is the second half of what you said, though. Like these teams that have fantastic records and then have to travel. I get that, but it makes it more interesting. I think it makes it more interesting for the possibilities, because how many times do you see those wild card games where this team that doesn't even deserve to be in the playoffs wind up beating the number 1 seed? That makes those games really exciting for me. But
right, but it could still happen the other way around. The 9-8 team could be the number 7 wild card team and still end up being a Cinderella story.
That's true. Anything can happen any given Sunday, right?
That's what they say.
Your calls, emails, comments, and support are always the highlight of the Packers Fan Podcast. So thank you to everybody that shared, and thank you to everybody that's going to continue to share in the future. Remember to be a part of the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community and be a part of the conversation. Head over to packerscommunity.com, and we cannot wait to hear from you.
Indeed. And I actually have upcoming podcasting news of sorts. Although I'm no longer producing my Don't Blink Doctor Who podcast, in a few weeks, I'm going to be joining my longtime Whovian buddy, Samuel Lewis, on a very special episode of his Going Through Who podcast. Samuel and his co-host Jacob have been going through all of the 10th Doctor episodes of Doctor Who. That's David Tennant, as you know. Anyway, this special edition of Going Through Who will be a look back of sorts, all about David Tennant's original run as the Doctor on Doctor Who. And I've been invited on to share some of my favorite 10th Doctor episodes and stories. And Jacob and Samuel will be sharing theirs as well on their show. Of course, it's their show. It's going to be a fun one. Go ahead and subscribe to Samuel's Going Through Who podcast now, so you'll be ready when my episode hits the feeds in a few weeks. Just go to tscn.tv, which is, I guess, short for the Samcast Network. I'll also have a link to it directly in the show notes for this episode of the podcast. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit more Doctor Who one more time.
There you go, man. And speaking of other podcasts, my show, The Gaming Outsider, which is now part of the Radcast Network, is recording our next episode with a special guest from a podcast about being the father of daughters. He's going to join our discussion about playing video games with your kids, which will be pretty interesting for me since I don't have any. I don't know how I'm going to contribute to that conversation, but I'm going to pick his brain about what it means to be a gamer parent. You can hear my show at the same places you listen to this one, and you can find our website at thegamingoutsider.com.
Thank you for continuing to support your Packers Fan Podcast. We really appreciate how it helps keeps the URLs going, the hosting, and more things like that all alive and well and rolling for the upcoming season. Check out the details on how to become a PFP patron at packersfanpodcast.com/giveback. So go Pack Go, and thank yous to Mr. Jay Walters for your support at the Bart Star level. And Dan Dyler, aka Captain Pack Sparrow, yo ho ho. I think you've heard of him. Yo ho ho, and go Pack Go to you and yours for the J Love 10 level patronage.
Go Pack Go, and thank yous to the $4 Brett Favre supporters, Megan, Scott Boers, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast. And got to give this is a second shout out for Scott Boers. He popped up in my memories on Facebook this week when I met him up in Green Bay and had a beer with him someplace. And I was like, man, I got to reach out and talk to that guy. So Scott, I hope you're listening, man. It was great seeing you 8 years ago. I did not realize how fast time flies, but we need to remedy that and get together again sometime soon. But wait. There's more. Let's give some Go Pack Goes and thank yous to our Curly Lambo level patron supporters as well. Hank Davis from the @Free Podcast Tools YouTube channel, Brett Connor, and Joe Christensen. Again, if you were interested in joining in, check out all the details at packersfanpodcast.com/giveback. As a reminder, the Packers Fan Podcast is the unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. Please tell even more of your friends about PFP. You have been doing a spectacular job, and thank you.
And follow us on X. I think Scott even still calls it Twitter. You can find us at Packers Fan Pod. You can find Scott at GoCast Scott or the GoCast at the GoCast. And I'm at Wayne Henderson. Now, as we quote unquote patiently wait for training camp and preseason games, here's PFP community members Megan, Dan Dyler, Joe Christensen, and Andre in LA with their Go Pack Go outro.
Go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go!